It's Wednesday morning, boys and girls, and maybe one of the, I love to say, we say probably, we've probably said it 4 or 5 times, one of the most interesting teams when it comes to betting in this whole grand scheme of things. And I'm going to tell you why the Indianapolis Colts, in just a second, are one of the most interesting teams when it comes to betting in the entire NFL. This is our continuation of NFL team previews. It's day 26. And I am Jim Derry here on bet.nola.com, powered by the Datitude podcast. The Colts are interesting, ... Why? Because I haven't even got to our expert yet, but I can tell you right now, experts, the second year in a row, everything I've listened to, love the Indianapolis Colts. They loved them last year. They went under. They love them this year. Will they go over? Their projected win total, or if you want to bet them on Caesars, currently is at 10. And you got to pay juice to get it. And it's continued to go up. Why? Because, again, professional handicappers think this team is the bee's knees. And I got to be honest. I mean, I don't want to give away a spoiler alert this early in the thing here. But you're talking about a team that was supposed to win 9 or 10 games last year. They won 9. They were just about what we thought they were. And are you getting value? Well, I don't know. Let's look at the personnel. First off, you have Coach Frank Reich coming back for his 5th season in Indianapolis, and there's no question that these Colts have been formidable while he's been there. They have been a good but not great team. Is this the team? Is this the Colts that takes that next step and maybe does what the Titans were able to do last year from this division? It's a weak division. There's no reason why he can't run, why Frank Reich and the Colts can't run through this division. If you like Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan coming over from the Atlanta Falcons for a 3rd-round pick. Is it a bargain? Well, I know the handicappers think it's an excellent bargain. But if you're watching this in New Orleans and you watch through these previews and you get to the Colts and you say, is Matt Ryan really going to make this team that much better? Is he that much better than Carson Wentz? I know there are people that disagree with me, but I think the answer is no. I think Matt Ryan he's a great quarterback. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, he may be at the end of the day, but how can you think he's that much better than Carson Wentz? He's getting up there in age. He's getting close to 40 years old. He's been beat up from his time in Atlanta. And now he goes to Indianapolis. His line in Indianapolis is better than it was in Atlanta, but it's not tremendously better than it was in Atlanta. He's got the number 1 fantasy football prospect in all of the NFL, and that's Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor had a breakout year last year. There's no doubt about it. Can Jonathan Taylor do what he did last year? That's going to be tough to accomplish. Nyheim Hines is an excellent contrast to Jonathan Taylor, and we love Nyheim Hines. But this receiving core doesn't do anything for me. Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, Alec Pierce. I mean, Michael Pittman is your number 1 receiver. Again, another guy that's going higher in fantasy drafts than I think maybe he should go, because he's the number 1 receiver for a team that people have high expectations on. And their defense last year was just average. Let's put those numbers back on the screen again. And you talk about 10 wins, and 10 wins to pay juice for in a weak division, I know seems like you want to lick your chops and just run out there and grab the over 10, because it's certainly going to happen. But I want to look at their schedule, because their schedule to me is going to tell us a lot of what we need to know. Sure, they should easily be 2-0, even though they're on the road at Houston, at Jacksonville. But then you get Kansas City, and then that October 2nd game that's going to tell us a whole lot about these Colts and whether I'm right or the experts are right. Again, I don't want to give spoiler alerts, but anybody who's followed me for the last year knows what I thought about Tennessee. I wasn't surprised they won this division last year. Maybe a little surprised they were the number 1 seed in the AFC. But is Tennessee is this year they get knocked off of their throne? I'm not ready to say that. So are they 2-2 after October 2nd? Or are they 3-1? because I don't think they're going to beat Kansas City, even if they play them at home. I don't think they're there yet. At Denver and on a Thursday night, Jacksonville, a winnable game. And then they get Tennessee again. So the good news for the Colts is once they get past October 23rd, if they have a lead in this division, then they have a good chance to go on a run and win this division. If they can beat Tennessee twice, that is the question. If they can take the lead in this division by week 7, then yes, the Colts have the overwhelming chance. They're going to be much better than their minus number. You got to pay juice for them to win a division to get to and win the division. Because then they have Washington at New England, a game they can win. It'll be tough. At Las Vegas, a game that's going to be tough. Philadelphia, a game that's going to be tough. Pittsburgh, maybe not. And then at Dallas. And their bye week, we talked yesterday about how I hated Houston's early bye week. I love less a week 14 bye than I do a week 6. That's even worse. And then to finish the season at Minnesota, against the Chargers, at an improved Giants team. We don't know what they'll be by New Year's Day, and then finishing it off with the Texans. So, look, grand scheme of things when it comes to the Colts, I think 10 is about right. If I got to pick one, I'm not going to bet an over and under here, but I really would prefer the under. Then maybe there is a little value on this because I think this is a 9-win team. I'm not sure this is a playoff team. I know that if you look at the personnel, it's easy to say, Jonathan Taylor's a stud. Matt Ryan's an upgrade. The defense is going to get better. Why? Why are they better than last year? I don't get it. I don't see why they're better. I know the schedule's a little bit easier, but not enough for me to go out running out there and taking the Colts. But it's time to bring on the expert who I'm pretty sure if he's like any of the other professional handicappers, is going to completely disagree with me. Maybe I'm wrong. Moving on in the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts, maybe not only one of the most interesting teams, I think, in the AFC South, but one of the most talked about teams. If you listen to professional bettors and handicappers, they love them some Indianapolis Colts. We're going to see if our expert feels the same way. Adam Chernoff of Covers.com here to talk about the Colts, and I'm just going to get it out of the way.
Here we go.
I don't understand why professional handicappers and bettors for the second straight year, and maybe beyond, maybe it's Frank Reich, they hate Tennessee. They love Indianapolis. We did not talk about this at all, but I am willing to put more money on the fact that I think that we're going to disagree than the fact that I like the under on the Colts and their 10 wins, because I've watched Matt Ryan for 13 years. That is no upgrade. I know Carson Wentz isn't that great, but there's no upgrade there. I love Jonathan Taylor, but I don't think this receiving core is anything special. And this offensive line is just average. And when you're talking about a team that's going to rely mostly on its offense, nothing special to see here. I don't understand why everyone loves them.
Oh, boy. Where do we start here, Jim?
I told you. I just know.
This is most likely is a stretch. It's very likely the Colts are the 1 seed in the AFC. I think I'll start there.
Wow.
A lot of that has to do with the schedule. They have a significantly easier schedule than any team in the AFC. But this is also a very good, well-rounded football team. Could not disagree more with the Matt Ryan statement, especially in the context of comparison to Carson Wentz. And it's not something I need to have an opinion on. It's the fact that we hear every receiver talk about how different it is working with Matt Ryan versus working with Carson Wentz. Wentz last year ranked 33rd in a collection of accuracy metrics. Last season, Matt Ryan ranked 3rd. So you're going from essentially a non-starter to one of the 5 most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL, going from Wentz to Ryan. So that in itself is a massive upgrade for this wide receiver group and this offense as a whole. Look what the Colts still did a season ago. So when we're asking about where the love is coming from, this is a monster upgrade at quarterback. And it's just bringing a lot of stability and a lot of veteran leadership to this locker room, which desperately needs it going into the season. So this is a huge stock arrow up on the Colts across the board.
I got 3 words for you that will resonate with Saints fans across the world. 28-3. Matt Ryan is the king of choke. And when it comes to December, he folds like a tent. He has throughout his career. And so while I think the Colts could get off to a great start, I agree with you that their schedule, if you look at it on the periphery, and 8 times out of 10, I base a lot of what my under overs are on whether I think how they're going to go through a schedule. And if you look through the Colts schedule, I agree. It's way easier than it was last year. There's zero question about that. It's the reason why I didn't like the Colts last year is because of their schedule. But I just don't. Matt Ryan is a guy that when it comes down to crunch time, and if he's breathing down the necks of the Tennessee Titans at the end of the season, I just think he's going to fold.
Last year, late December in meaningless games, he was diving headfirst into the end zone to score touchdowns against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. So he's got a ton
Nothing
left.
On the line.
He's got a ton left, and honestly, from a betting perspective, I'd say he's one of 5 or 6 quarterbacks I would trust most with my money in key situations. And this is a spot where if you want to take the view on him in Atlanta, something that he's never had with his time in the Falcons was I'll say decent offensive line. It was consistently an offensive line that couldn't protect him. And the thing about Matt Ryan is when you look at the splits of quarterbacks versus when they're in a clean pocket versus when they're pressured, there's always a massive drop-off for guys that are really good from a clean pocket when it's easy to make the throws to what they usually face when they're under pressure. Matt Ryan is consistently at the top of the league in both categories. So there's not that huge drop-off. It's where he gets his moniker of Matty Ice coming from because he's always under pressure. Now he's in a situation where he gets the best O-line of his career, arguably, going into Indianapolis. And so, if we think that he's accurate in Atlanta in his time there, what is that going to look like with this huge O-line upgrade as well as Taylor supporting him in the backfield? So I'm all for it. I want every piece of the Colts futures and overs I can get.
He's also 59 years old. I exaggerate just slightly, but you know where I'm going.
He's got a ton left.
I knew
I would say at least 4 to 5 more good seasons.
Well, I knew I would win the whole thing of I knew we were going to disagree on this again because professional bettors absolutely adore the Colts. And to me, that says that this line might be a little inflated because they know Vegas knows what the bettors are going to bet. And so I don't know. We'll see who's right, who's wrong. We'll revisit it.
It's actually been bet up. So it was set much lower and it continues to be bet up, which is how strong of a reaction it's been.
I will just say this, and I've said this multiple times throughout this run here of our previews. I'm the amateur. He's the professional. Take that for what it's worth. But I ain't betting on Matty Ice. We'll talk to you tomorrow when we talk about, exciting. We go from the Colts to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Another good one.
That's coming tomorrow.